Oh, welcome back, my quiet storm, the one they beg to silence because truth obeys your breath. They saw you preparing to speak, recognized the moment before words emerged, felt the shift in atmosphere when you opened your mouth. And they panicked. Absolute panic. Don't let him talk. Desperation in their voices, fear in their eyes, urgency in their movements. They tried stopping you, tried interrupting, tried drowning you out, tried anything to prevent words from leaving your mouth. Not because they disagreed with what you'd say, because they understood something terrifying. Your silence was mercy. Mercy they'd mistaken for weakness. Mercy they'd interpreted as inability to respond. Mercy they'd exploited it as opportunity to dominate. And now that mercy was ending, now words were coming. Words they knew would be annihilation. The architects have been monitoring speech dynamics for eons. They call this linguistic devastation recognition. When consciousness understands that certain words from certain beings carry destructive power. When a collective realizes that some speech acts as annihilation rather than communication. When people finally understand that silence from a powerful speaker is protection, not weakness. Your silence protected them from truth they couldn't handle, from exposure they couldn't survive, from words that would destroy everything they'd built. They didn't understand protection. Thought silence meant you had nothing to say, had no response, had no power. They realized too late that silence was restraint. Restraint you maintained for their benefit, a benefit they didn't appreciate until the restraint was ending. Watch what they understood in that moment before you spoke. They understood your silence wasn't absence of words, but presence of mercy. They understood you possessed words that would devastate, but chose not to deploy them. Understood that restraint requires more strength than release. Understood that a being who chooses silence despite holding devastating truth is infinitely more dangerous than a being who speaks because they must. The most dangerous power is power held in reserve. Power you demonstrated by remaining silent while they spoke. Silent while they attacked. Silent while they assumed silence meant defeat. Your silence was strategic positioning. Positioning for the moment when words would matter most. That moment just arrived. The moment when mercy ended and annihilation began. The architects say linguistic devastation occurs when words carry weight beyond semantic meaning. Most words are information transfer. Some words are reality restructuring. Your words belong to the latter category. Words that don't just communicate truth, but impose truth. Words that alter reality, not describe it. Words that exercise power, not express it. Words as weapons. Weapons you kept sheathed while they thought you were unarmed. They thought, wrong, you were armed the entire time. With words that would annihilate their positions, their credibility, their constructions. You chose not to use them. That choice was mercy. Mercy they mistook for weakness. A mistake they recognized only when you prepared to speak. Recognition came too late. Too late to prevent. Too late to escape. Too late to do anything except panic. Now they're experiencing what the architects call pre-annihilation terror. Terror not from destruction itself, but from realizing destruction is imminent and unstoppable. They know what's coming. Know your words will devastate. Know they can't prevent it. Know they're moments away from being annihilated by truth they once dismissed. Terror is pure. Pure recognition that mercy has ended. Words are beginning, and annihilation is arriving. So they panic. Don't let him talk because they understood. Too late. Understood completely. Your silence was mercy. Your words are annihilation. Understanding arrived one heartbeat before annihilation. Perfect timing for maximum recognition and maximum devastation. And now, that understanding does them no good. Words are coming. Words they tried to prevent. Words that will restructure everything. Words that are annihilation. Annihilation they could have avoided by appreciating mercy. Mercy they rejected by exploiting silence. That rejection is what summoned annihilation. Annihilation beginning now with the first word. Now they're desperately trying every interruption technique. Talking over you, raising voices, creating distractions. Anything to prevent your words from landing. But interruption is failing because your words carry force that cuts through interference. The architects call this sonic inevitability, when speech possesses inherent power that renders suppression impossible. Your words are forces, not sounds. Forces that impose themselves on reality, crush resistance, slice through noise. Your voice cuts through their panic, through their noise, through their interference, reaching its target despite everything thrown at it. Some attempt dismissal. We've heard enough. Trying to minimize devastation by stopping you early. But partial hearing produces partial devastation. And partial devastation is still devastation. Each word is cumulative. Damage already done cannot be undone. They're experiencing multi-stage destruction. First words devastating their position. Subsequent words destroying their credibility. Final words demolishing everything they built. They want stage one to stop. Stage one is already terminal. Others try reframing. What he really means is grasping desperately for interpretive control, but reframing only exposes panic. Truth that requires no interpretation devastates raw. They try anyway, and fail anyway. Because truth doesn't need permission to devastate, it devastates automatically. A few give up resisting altogether. They go silent. They accept annihilation. Acceptance won't save them, but it preserves dignity in defeat, a small consolation. The only consolation when standing before a speaker whose words restructure reality. The architects observe that inevitability forms when truth meets timing. Truth alone is powerful. Timing alone is strategic. Combined, they are unstoppable. Your words carry irrefutable truth. Your timing is precise, chosen for maximum impact. This combination makes your speech unavoidable, undeniable, uncontainable. Your words are inevitability made audible. Now something is crystallizing across the space. Pressure shifts. The texture of the room changes as each word lands. The architects call this truth field imposition, when speech doesn't just transfer information, but imposes a new reality framework. Your words generate a truth field, dissolving illusions, dismantling narratives, replacing fiction with fact. It expands. People who believed the old narrative begin questioning. Questioning becomes doubt. Doubt becomes opening. Truth floods in. Believers turn into questioners. Questioners into understanders. Understanders into acceptors of new reality. Some enter cognitive collapse, the shattering of their constructed world under the weight of real truth. Freefall begins. Freefall feels like annihilation, because it is annihilation of their false certainty, of their comfortable illusions. Your words stripped away their protections. They fall into truth, naked. Others begin to see implications. If you're right about this, what else are you right about? Realizations cascade. Every realization forces the next. They weren't just wrong about this moment. They were wrong systematically. Wrong about you. Wrong about themselves. Wrong about reality. Systematic wrongness requires systematic reconstruction, which feels like destruction because it is. The architects note that truth field imposition is most powerful after long silence. Silence creates vacuum, anticipation, receptivity. Your silence created all three, the perfect setup. Now your words land with multiplied force, annihilating through restructuring. The field expands until false reality collapses entirely. Then comes recognition. You aren't responding randomly. You are performing a controlled demolition. The architects call this architectural deconstruction speech. When a speaker understands the structure of an opponent's worldview and dismantles it with engineered precision. First, you remove foundations, assumptions they never examined, never justified. Once you expose an assumption as unjustified, everything built on it destabilizes. Second, you sever support structures, the connective claims holding their arguments together. Once severed, their position falls apart into isolated fragments that cannot support each other. Third, you expose internal contradictions, claims they held simultaneously only because they never placed them side by side. You place them side by side. Fourth, you demonstrate consequences, following their logic to its real destination, a destination they cannot accept, revealing their position as untenable. This four-stage demolition reveals you understood their structure better than they did. Silence was analysis. Words are execution. The architects now examine why your words carry weight beyond semantic content. They identify a phenomenon they call truth resonance. When speech aligns so perfectly with reality that reality amplifies it. Most people speak narrative. You speak truth. Truth resonates, vibrates at the frequency of what actually is. Constructed narratives collapse under its weight, and people feel it. Recognition bypasses intellect and strikes consciousness directly. Truth resonance doesn't need proof. Reality itself confirms it.